President Barack Obama gave an historic speech to the Cuban people on Tuesday. He tried to end Cold War rivalries in a nationally televised address from Havana. CCTV's Michael Voss has been following the story for us, and he's here with us from Havana. Tell us what happened.
Well, Mike, this really was a keynote address. I've come to bury the last remnants of the Cold War and offer the hand of friendship. These were some of President Barack Obama's opening remarks to a packed audience at the elegant, recently restored Grand Theater, home to Cuba's National Ballet. But this was a speech that also included calls for greater economic and political change on the island.
US President Barack Obama left his most important speech for his final day in Havana, a televised address shown live in Cuba, outlining his vision of the future. With Cuba's President Raul Castro and his cabinet looking on, Obama stressed that the United States would not impose change on Cuba. That was up to the Cubans to do. But he then spoke about what he considers universal human rights.
I believe citizens should be free to speak their mind without fear, to organize and to criticize their government, and to protest peacefully, and that the rule of law should not include arbitrary detentions of people who exercise those rights.
Obama called on the US Congress to lift the trade embargo, but said that to benefit, Cuba needed economic changes as well.
Even if we lifted the embargo tomorrow, Cubans would not realize their potential without continued change here in Cuba. It should be easier to open a business here in Cuba. A worker should be able to get a job directly with companies who invest here in Cuba. The internet should be available across the island so that Cubans can connect to the wider world and to one of the greatest engines of growth in human history.
So what did those in the audience make of his speech?
I think he talked about freedom and human rights, not only for the Cuban people. He talked very generally on those terms, and he recognized that there are things to be done here, there, and almost everywhere.
The Cuban people are free. I invite anyone who wants to come here and prove it on the streets. People talk about whatever they want to, whatever opinion, and nothing happens.
There was another televised appearance on Tuesday that drew an even bigger audience as the US president attended, along with Castro, an exhibition game between the Cuban national team and the Tampa Bay Rays. They're the first US Major League team to play in this baseball-crazy island in decades.
Mike, one early indication of what, if any, impact this historic three-day visit to Cuba may have on encouraging further economic and political changes could come next month at the Communist Party Congress. It's the first one to be held here in 5 years.
Michael, you've been in Cuba for years now, covering a lot of big stories. I don't think there are many that can match this one, all the symbolism, all the things you've witnessed over the last couple of days. But people are probably wondering what's been achieved from this visit. What would you say was the takeaway?
Well, this was never a visit where there were going to be signed treaties and accords. I think from the Cuban point of view, President Raul Castro has shown that he has engineered a significant change with the United States. They no longer feel under threat, this hand of friendship, and that the US is not going to try and overthrow the government. Big achievements there. On the American side, I think some of the biggest achievements are on the fringes of this visit, all those economic deals that were signed, Starwood taking over 3 hotels, Google opening a very fast internet center here. And the more trade and commerce that the United States can do with Cuba, President Obama believes will make it harder to reverse this policy of rapprochement should a Republican get into the White House.
Michael Voss, live for us in Havana. Thank you.